right. Okay, we are live on Facebook now. All right. And now we're going to go live on Instagram. Okay, I just sent the invitation. Hey, you all on Facebook. I see y'all. Hey, Instagrammers. I see you all. Thank y'all. I'm trying to make sure that everybody can hear me. Hello, y'all let me know if y'all can hear me. I just want to make sure that the sound is good. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, good evening. Good evening. Okay, so you're sending me a video call.
Yeah, that's wrong.
All right, let me do it again. One more time. All right. Did you get an invitation just now?
Yes.
Okay.
There it is.
There you go. Okay, so now we have to work on the volume. I think there's an echo. You have some headphones? I think we have to do that so that it's not an echo too much. Hey, y'all, I see y'all on here. I see you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining. We getting adjusted here. Okay. See my Instagram family coming on. Thank y'all again so much. All right, let's see if they can hear you, Miss Cherie. Oh, I think that sounds good right there.
Is that it?
Volume down on the computer a little bit. Turn the volume down. So when you have multiple devices, you gotta try to figure it out.
Right. How about now?
Okay, I think we good. We good, Facebook, Instagram, we good. Y'all can hear us, no echo. We good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Look, I'm excited, you all. You already know what it is. If you all are new to following me, welcome. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all tuning in. And if you don't know, every third Tuesday of each month, I do a podcast, and my podcast is centered around me talking about self-truths from my book, Self-Check, Self-Check. You see it, you already know what it is. I'm excited. I'm excited. I am a first-time author. And the crazy part is that I was blessed to have published this book during the pandemic, which, coincidentally ended up being such a tool that is needed this day and time. So, to God be the glory for that. But I had purpose as a result of publishing this book that I wanted this book to be a blessing because it's such a testimony as far as just self-discovery. And if you have not gotten your copy of your book, it's not too late. You can always, there she go with it, there she go with it. I'm about to go ahead and introduce my guest in a second, but you can feel free, please. I would love your support, and you wouldn't be doing me a favor so much as you would be doing yourself a favor with investing in this. Because when I tell you this book, Self Check, has you look at yourself in so many different lights and perspectives. And it's a thing where I feel like we all need to, right? Like the more that we grow, the more that we change and evolve, the more we should check ourselves. So that's the whole purpose of this book. It's a self-help book. The book consists of many things from activities and exercises because each chapter is its own place. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I have topics on self-confidence, chapter on self-love, self-worth, self-value, self-care, and just checking yourself in different aspects. And then each, what is it? Is it each chapter? Yes, each chapter has its own scripture. Each chapter has its own mirror moment where you just kind of got to do a reflecting mirror moment within yourself and look at yourself in the mirror. And then it also has a self-check activity after each chapter where you just kind of just based off what you just developed and learned about yourself. Now let's go ahead and just check ourselves in the end. I love it. I mean, it's something that I do on a regular basis. And I even incorporated a journal in the end of it because you may want to write some things down that you may feel may be beneficial to you. Please, I would love your support. You can either direct message me or go on my website, www.JaniceSturdivant, my full name.com, and you can get your signed copy sent out to you this week. I promise you it will be a blessing. But as a result of this book, I have developed a podcast, which is Truth Talk Tuesdays, only once a month, every third Tuesday of the month. And each time I bring on a guest, I have some wonderful people that I have had divine connections with, and just out of love, out of relationship, I have reached out to several ones and asked, as a result of them supporting my book, would they mind just coming on and just kind of sharing their journey? And without no hesitation, all of them say yes. And it's like, thank God, right? Thank God for relationship. Thank God for divine connections. And so this beautiful soul I have had the honor of with connecting with, it was as a result of a mutual connection a couple of years back. And as a result of a mutual connection, and I know Pastor John Stevenson, he's going to be tuning in at some point, or if he's not tuning in now, thank you so much for just being wonderful. I was able to connect with Miss Sharif. Now, let me just tell you all this because we've interacted several times. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be at their ministry, and she's over the youth ministry, and then we just kind of connected, and we didn't realize how we had so much in common, like from our job titles to what we do as far as like work, as far as our lifestyle, the passion that we have for young people. We have so much in common. And that's what I mean as far as divine connection, when it's not something that's forced, but you all just end up connecting somewhere, and then you end up being a blessing to each other. And so she's been supporting me, and anytime she asks me to do something, sure, no problem, just let me know. And that's what I love as far as genuine connections. And I asked her, she had supported my book, and I said, well, would it be okay? I know that I was a part of, what she was doing last month. And I said, well, can you do me a favor? Can you come on my podcast and just be real and transparent and talk about, your self-discovery? And she said, no problem, Janice. Look, you all, Miss Sharif, can I just say I appreciate you? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. I love you. You're amazing.
Oh, see, now that you just put a smile on my face for no reason. No, but when you have a beautiful heart, you have a beautiful soul, it's easy to love. And she's one of those people that, some people, they have to force themselves to be nice. She's one of those ones that's just genuinely nice. Anytime you see her, she's going to always have a smile, greet you with love. And that's the type of people I love to be around. So we're going to get right into it because an hour does go by when you have a fun. So we're just going to get right into it as far as our Truth Talk Tuesday. And I always just love to hear, because I know I'm going to go into some other questions, but I just always love to hear when you first got this book, or when you first heard of self-check. I would love to know, like, what were your thoughts as a result of just receiving the book, and just tell me about it. Not for raving sake. If you want to rave, go ahead. But for just honesty, just for honesty, what were your thoughts? Because I am aware that self check is one of those type of books that people may not glean to immediately because it's like, oh, well, not another self help book. I don't want to look at myself again. But it is something that's necessary, So just with saying, tell me your thoughts about it.
Well, when I first got it and opened it, I was surprised to see like activities and
Mhm.
actual like challenges, which actually made me happy because I was like, oh, I got some work to do.
Yeah.
I really think it is the questions that you ask really require you to take a real look at yourself, you
Hmm.
know. And some of them questions, I was like, let me put this down and think about this, you know.
Real talk.
Because it's real talk. We both mentor young women, but at the same time, there's still areas in our lives, at least in my life, that I still need mentorship. There's still areas of my life I'm still working on. And
Hmm.
so this book helps me.
Yeah.
I can't help others if I don't take a good hard look at myself and make
Hmm.
the necessary changes so I can be the very best mentor or best leader, teacher, whatever it is, whatever role I'm in at that moment. So I love the book. I really do.
I think one of the things about it, love, is that, we should never, as people, we should never get to the point where we're not teachable, especially because if we're constantly evolving as humans, we're learning something new. We're learning something new about ourselves. We're learning something new about life. And so if I'm being one that's imparting into others, young people, then I should also be the one that has, like, I have a mentor. And I have people, whether it's my parents or, people who have a little bit more wisdom than I do and may have to go to them because I may not be able to understand or know how to connect certain things, or maybe just need somebody to impart some wisdom or just listen to it because I need to vent, So you should also be at that point. I love when you say, as far as us as mentors or teachers, sometimes people that hold titles sometimes think that they don't have to because they have arrived at a certain point. But I think the more that you live on this here earth and you're learning, you're gonna also, that balance of having somebody to impart in you is needed.
Oh
But
yeah.
please, but
I,
please
I
continue.
yeah, you're right. I have a coach. I have
Hmm.
mentors in my life
Hmm.
because I don't know it all, you
Yeah,
know. And then I found the things that I thought I knew, I didn't know at all.
that part,
So,
that part.
I had to unlearn some stuff, thinking, oh, I thought it was this. And then I find out later it's not that at all. And so I love what you said about remaining teachable,
Hmm.
sitting at other people's feet, learning, gleaning, growing, from other people, so that
Yeah.
we can be the very best that we can be. Because you and I, we pour out our lives, our hearts to many
Hmm.
on a regular basis,
Yeah,
sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional.
that part.
And you need people in your life that can speak life over you, that can help you get filled up again, and
Hmm.
and they can see, mentors and coaches, that what I love about them, they can see sometimes what you cannot see,
Right.
and they can see the greatness in you. They can see when sometimes you just need to chill out, take a
Hmm.
rest. They can see those things, and they're not afraid to say those things to you. So shout out to all the coaches and mentors.
Salute. When I tell you, it's not one of the most glamorous titles, if you will, as far as being one that is a teacher or a mentor or a coach, because you're literally taking on, others, their challenges, what they have going on. And I'll be honest, since it's true talk, I'll be honest, sometimes it does become a lot emotionally. it becomes a lot mentally, it becomes a lot spiritually, because when I am mentoring, it's not just a physical thing. Like I pray for those that I'm mentoring, you know what I mean? Like, what they're going through, that's something that, okay, this is what I need to pray for, and pray about. So it's not just a physical, oh, okay, I'm meeting up with you, or we're talking, or we're setting goals. All those things are, yeah, and a part of it. But then I also got to pray for your soul. I got to pray, emotionally, that you don't go crazy out here, or you don't, make certain choices. And sometimes when you're constantly, I have a better appreciation, let me say, for pastors,
Mhm.
for teachers, because, I could just be mentoring just a few or a group. Whereas, shepherds have sheep, and it's just like, and then every sheep is not the same.
No, no,
And
they're
every sheep
not.
has their own, so that can become a lot. So I understand when they're carrying that load, you have to have, those moments, those quiet times, those times to reset and recharge. Because if not, that toil, that turmoil, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, can become overwhelming.
Yep, you are so
Yeah.
right. It can overwhelm you, and then it can, if you're not careful, it almost wants to attach itself to you. Now,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
burden is your burden,
Right.
and I remember when I first got started into this kind of working with young ladies.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled for a while because I felt like, oh my God, I don't know what I feel like I didn't know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
or I felt like I didn't know enough to encourage or to
Mm-hmm.
speak life or give advice
Yeah.
to the young ladies. So a lot of times I always felt inferior, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But then I noticed they started coming to me as we developed relationships, sharing their deep truths, or sharing their thoughts with me. Sometimes I would get calls at 11 o'clock at night, with someone saying, hey, I think I'm going to kill myself, or,
Wow.
or I'm struggling sexually, with my sexuality, and so I noticed that I quickly became a safe space for
Yeah.
many young women to be able to come and just share what they're feeling, and being able for them to be able to do so without judgment, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
still be able to share the love of God with them,
Mm-hmm.
and share that God loves them no matter what kind
Yeah.
of situation they find themselves in. But it can be such a, like you said, overwhelming at times,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially when because I wasn't particularly like trained in college for this kind of role. It was just something that I believe God put a burden on me
Yeah.
to, because I looked out one day in my community, in my apartment complex. I saw the young ladies out there, and my heart just immediately was like, oh my God. It reminded me of being in high school. It reminded me of all the self-esteem issues and peer
Yeah.
pressure and people pleasing, and just how my life was a complete mess in high school. And I looked out at these girls years later, and I had a desire to help. I had a
Yeah.
desire to encourage them. I had a desire to love on them. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I did. I just kind of leaped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
And
so,
that, and most times I think, Miss Cherie, one of the things about it is that, when I work with people and I converse with people and they try to figure out what their purpose or what they're supposed to be doing, most of what your purpose is a lot tied into your journey and what you've overcome.
yeah,
And as far as your need of wanting to help, you have developed a purpose because you have went through similar journey or process. And now look at you, you're now imparting and helping others. But I wanted to kind of, because I want to backtrack real quick, because you mentioned something as far as self-esteem, and that's one of the chapters and in my book. And for those who are just joining us on Facebook and Instagram, we're having True Talk Tuesday, which is self-truths from my book, self-check, self-check, self-check. Look, this book, when I tell you, it's a great self-discovery that everybody should have. It's not age oriented, it's not gender oriented. Anybody who wants to look at themselves and better themselves can get this book, look, direct message me or go to my website, www.janicestradivant.com. Get your signed copy, and I promise you, you're going to thank me later. It's going to be a blessing that you're going to consistently do on a regular basis. But Ms. Cherie, when you had mentioned self-esteem, because in my book, I kind of talk about different parts of self-esteem. I talk about choices. I talk about healthy versus unhealthy relationships as it relates to self-esteem. And then I also talk about growth within. But for you to kind of mention self-esteem, would you mind just kind of sharing? Because I feel like I've shared my story many of times as far as just my self-esteem journey, and how that played a major part to even write the book Self-Check, because my self-esteem was one that, up and down all throughout my childhood, all throughout my teenage years, young adult, up and down. And my esteem, was based on relationships and, the people that came into my life and how they treated me and what they didn't do. But from your perspective, as far as your journey, what would you say as far as just how significant self-esteem is?
I think it's everything. One of the things that you said in a class not too long ago, you were discussing self-esteem and you said it's self-esteem. Someone can't really give it to you. It's something that you're going to have to kind of build and grow in. Now, it is true that parents and those around you, they contribute to what your self-esteem looks like as you grow. But ultimately, you're responsible for your self-esteem. When you become an adult, you have to grow in certain areas. You have to do the work. You can't just stay there. And that was something that I had to learn. Growing up, I struggled with people pleasing. Now, I realize that's something that everybody doesn't deal with, but I wanted people to like me. Sure. So I grew up always finding myself in situations that I really didn't want to be in. I was messing around with, these girls over here. They don't care nothing about me, but I want to be accepted by them, or this guy here, he's cute. So I'm gonna go mess with him, even though I know he don't mean me no good. You know what I mean? But because of rejection, longing and looking for love, I found myself in these situations a lot in high school and even in my young adult life. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to encourage young women, regarding their esteem. Your self-esteem is important, because if you, based on your self-esteem and where you are, the decisions that you make may alter your life.
When I tell you that's true story, like even when you kind of look at the definition of esteem, if you look at the definition of esteem is defined as to respect, yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I'll just speak for myself, a lot of times I struggled with having high self-esteem because there was a lack of respect for myself. When I say that, man, I'm not even supposed to be being this truthful. It's supposed to be you.
You go, girl.
when I say that, because there were choices that I made that was disrespectful to me. Promises that I had made to myself that I even broke. Whether there were certain standards that I said I wasn't going to do and I ended up doing. There were certain relationships that I said I wasn't going to get in and I got into it. There were certain things, boundaries that I had set for myself that I ended up crossing. So as a result of me letting myself down and disrespecting, whether I disrespected my mind, I disrespected my body, I disrespected my, certain things about myself, my esteem got lower each time. So that was a struggle for me. But the reason why I was disrespecting myself, because I was looking for that feeling. I was looking for that void because my confidence wasn't high. All right, so I got low self-esteem. I got no confidence. All right, I'm talking about self-confidence and self-esteem. I don't want to talk anymore, but I will say this. All of it ties together. And when you're not sure of who you are and whose you are and what you are in this world, you'll put yourself in situations, and then you want to blame other people, but it's not everybody. It's you have to look at, why did I even get into this relationship in the first place?
Yeah.
Why did I even get connected with this person? What was the void? What did they even do for me? And so we continue to just evolve in these relationships, knowing they're not good for us, knowing that they're not benefiting us no way, no how, but because they gratify some temporary satisfaction, we stay in it, and then the whole time we lose ourselves in it. So then when we try to figure out what our identity is, or what our confidence is, or what our esteem is, we're not looking at self, because all right, so Cherie, so when you were saying self-esteem,
You're right, girl. You're right.
you were talking about it. How did you? What was it that you that was that turnaround as far as building your self-esteem, or can we say that's something that you're still working on today?
Still working today.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
ongoing process.
yeah,
Sometimes I wake up and I feel like, like my self-esteem is up here, and
yeah,
you can see it, the way I dress and my clothing, just just my little swag for the day. And there are
yeah.
other days where I'm like, oh my God, I just feel like the worst person on this planet. You
So
know
then
what
let
I
me
mean?
ask you then, with that moment right there, what is that triggering thought that makes you feel that way?
I think it's believing a lie. It's believing that
Okay,
you are not who God says you are. And I
gotcha.
think that part of it is we have to combat the lies with the truth. And the
That's
truth
it.
is that God took one look at us when He created us, said, "You are good." And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing, because I think the enemy is constantly lying to us, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And but if you don't have anything, if you don't have a word from God in you, then
Yeah.
you'll agree with the enemy,
Yeah.
and so we have to agree with God
So
every
true.
day.
So
And
true.
it's some days it's, okay, I'm agreeing with God, I'm high stepping. And there's other
Mhm.
days where the enemy is really like trying to chop away at who I am. Look at you, look at your hair, you are a mess.
Mhm.
Look at the weight you've gained, you know,
Yeah.
just all kinds of stuff. So and so hair is better than yours, or just going through this whole comparison, whatever it is. I don't think it really matters what it is. He knows exactly what point's gonna kind of upset you
Yeah.
or trigger you. And so I think being in agreement with God is the way out.
You know, I was just thinking about it when you had mentioned it. You know, the enemy, he's a lot of things. Um, but one thing for sure is that he is wise,
Mhm.
you know, and he knows those intimate things about ourselves that we may not even want to look at.
Mhm.
And he knows what would trigger us to make us backslide, or
Yeah.
to make us to, kind of go backwards, or to think negative, or to move, contrary to what the word says. But it's so true what you had mentioned before, as far as having a foundation, having having some sense of a ground, whether it's spiritual, we encourage as far as spiritual, because that's where we get our isness from anyway, our creator, God. God created us. So who we are as far as, individually, it says it in the Bible, it says it in his word as far as who we are. Now, where we end up going wrong in is if we're not, as you stated, into the word of God, or we're not consistent with the word of God, we're kind of focused on what's going on around us with the world. So we'll compare ourselves to, what we see as far as celebrities on TV. We'll compare ourselves to social media, icons and all of that, because of their status and because of what they're posting. And it's like, well, oh, okay, they're this age, and they've reached this, this magnitude, and they're this whatever. And we start comparing ourselves. But if you stop and eliminate comparing, and then focus on what the Bible says, then you won't be battling so much as far as your esteem fluctuating back and forth. That was a good point. Very, very good point.
You are so right. That comparison thing, and
Oh, it's
and, and,
dangerous.
and I think he uses that with, like, that's just probably one of his major things in his tool belt
Yeah.
because it seems like a lot of people struggle with that whole comparison thing.
I mean, think about it. You know what I mean? Whether it's the music we listen to, the TV shows, the series, the movies, and let's not even go too far as just celebrities. Let's look at it from the perspective of if you're dealing with comparative jealousy amongst your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
family, then you
Mm-hmm.
start comparing yourself to your siblings. Or, okay, my sibling has this and I don't have this, so I don't feel like I'm good enough. Or my sister, she's doing this and how she got this and she don't got to do this. And so we start comparing ourselves. That competitive jealousy, but then also when you think about competitive jealousy, where does that come from?
From
Where does that come from? Why are we comparing ourselves to our own blood? That shows that there's some insecurity there. That shows that there's some family dysfunction there. That shows that there's a lot of, negativity that's amongst the family because there's division there, period.
Yeah.
Because if we were united, then I wouldn't be feeling like I have to compare or compete against you. But because there's division there, you got to know that there's some type of comparison and competition there, and that's something that needs to be addressed, or that will continue to be a generational cycle that continues amongst each generation because that was something that was never dealt with.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right.
So
that's a whole
nother. And I felt myself shifting. I was like, let's come back to self-check. We're talking about family dysfunction. We're talking about self-check. You got a tambourine over there?
All right now. Remember, I got a flag. I got my flag.
I'm not going to ask you a question, but look, for y'all who's just joining, we having self-truth conversation from my book, Self-Check, with special guest, Miss Cherie, and we just literally just having some transparency, talk about just self, because we realize that we all have our own journeys. We're all going through our own journey in life, trying to discover who we are and what we are in this thing called life. And sometimes the journey may be smooth in some seasons. Sometimes the journey may be a little bumpy in some seasons, but the thing about it is that you just keep going. Keep going as long as you're still alive. So let me ask you, Ms. Cherie, as far as you discovering yourself, what challenges are you facing? If you want to go back, you can, but at this stage in your life, with discovering the real you, what challenges you think you're facing as a result of just looking at you?
I think that in this stage of my life, so, I was a young mom and I raised my family. My children are young adults now. It's almost like, who am I? I know that I was a young mom raising my young family as a young adult. But today I have to reevaluate, who am I? What do I like? What makes me happy? Because I never had that opportunity. It was always about my growing family. And so now it's about, what do you want to do? What do you like to do?
Yeah. Because if I just discovered, if you don't mind me saying, you have like young adult children, 25. I was like, wait, what?
I know most people think I remember one lady said, "You don't have any children, do you?" And I was like, well, yeah, they're young adults. Because people don't see me with them because they're adults.
they're adults. They live in their own life. And so even being a young mom, and you let me know if I'm just being too personal. But even being a young mom, and you know how society is, stereotypes and all of that. And those type of stigmas, I'm sure, was placed on you as far as just being a young mom. How did you handle just that life of having to raise children while you were raising yourself? Everybody's growing up together. How did you juggle all of that at the same time?
It wasn't easy because I was like a child with children. You know what I mean? So I started off as a young mother. I got married. I married probably when they were about 4 or 5 years old. I've been married for 22 years, I think.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it was not easy as two young people. We were two young people from Washington, D.C., very
Okay.
both coming out of dysfunctional homes.
Yeah.
And here we are trying to raise young children and we children ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy. We had a lot of challenges, a lot of dysfunction.
Hmm.
Um, but one thing we did have, we had prayer. We had
That's
prayer in our
good.
life. And prayer, I know prayer, a lot of people kind of dismiss it, but it's so
Yeah.
powerful and it can
Hmm.
change the trajectory of a family, of a life. Because
Hmm.
my family eventually, I mean, it was just total turmoil. I can remember it now. I know your audience they might laugh at this. I
Hey,
remember
that's
my
okay.
husband and I, we were living over there off of Marlboro Pike. Y'all know where that
Hmm.
is?
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he and I
Okay.
got into an argument. And
Okay.
he got so mad that he tossed my dirty clothes hamper off the balcony.
What? Off the balcony, not the clean clothes, the dirty clothes.
The dirty clothes, y'all. So now you know what's in the dirty clothes hamper.
Say no more.
So it's all out there, y'all.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm like,
Wow.
oh my God. Now, think
Wow.
of your embarrassing moments. That's certainly
That's young people right there. That's young love right there.
that's that young crazy. I don't recommend it, but that's
Yeah.
where I was. And so
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, oh my God, we don't, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
However, in our marriage, over time, as we matured
Sure.
and grew in the things of God, we both got ourselves in the house of God, and much prayer from both
Mm.
family and friends. We would begin to grow,
Yeah.
and have a marriage that honored God versus one that was
Sure.
crazy and wild. So I'm saying all that to say God can do anything, y'all. I'm not
When I
saying
tell
saying
you,
nothing crazy, but I'm just saying God can fix a situation.
well, here's the thing, through all of the craziness, through all of the ups and downs, you all are still together, and that's the true testimony.
Yeah.
22 years, sometimes you barely see people last 22 months, not alone 22 days.
I
So
know.
you
Yeah.
can laugh at it now, but I promise you, those that probably was laughing at you, what's their status? What are you
Right.
still in a relationship? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Oh
it's one
yeah.
of those.
I do. I do. And I
Yeah.
I feel like, like today I have a blessed marriage. We have fun.
Nice.
Our children are young adults now,
Mhm.
but it takes commitment, it takes compromise, and it takes prayer.
Yeah.
But it can be done. But
Most
um,
definitely.
but yeah, so I'm living my best life now.
Well, see, now I'm gonna ask you, Lady Cherie, because even when you're thinking about self-check, and you and your husband, of course, when you're married, two become one.
Hmm.
But you still got to try to find like that individual isness, outside of you all being a couple.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I mean, I'm not married,
Uh-huh.
so I don't know what that looks like. I see my parents, they just celebrated, what was it, 43 years of
Wow.
being,
That's
being
a
together.
blessing.
So I've seen that, but I can't personally speak on it. So for those, who may be in a relationship, how do you manage keeping your self identity while also being married to someone at the same time?
Well, I got married very young, so I can't I can't really honestly say, that it was easy in the beginning. You know what I mean? There was a lot of like insecurity on both our parts. Where you going? What you doing? These
Right.
kinds of wild things. Um, I know one thing, God saved my marriage. You know, God saved my marriage. Can you hear me?
So here's one thing. Instagram must have lost signal on your end.
Okay.
Um, because you're
Okay, I
still
see.
frozen and it's circling.
Okay.
So I don't know. What you were saying was good as far as God saved your marriage. And I want people to hear the point that you were making. What I can do is, I don't want to end it because are you able to
Yeah, let me see what
rejoin on Instagram?
yeah, let me see if I can rejoin. Give me
Okay.
1 second. Let me
No,
see.
you fine. That's the thing about technology, you have to just go with it. Anything can happen and it's okay. While she's getting adjusted, for those of us that are, those of us that are just tuning in, this is True Talk Tuesday. We're having self-truth conversations from my book, Self-Check. Look, have you gone to my website? Have you gone to www.janicestuddavant.com and purchased your copy of Self-Check? It's such a blessing. It's a tool that I feel everybody should have because it's something that's needed for all age groups, for all, job titles. It's something that's needed, it's beneficial. And what we're discovering is that we're all having our own journey. Now, I see you on Facebook.
Okay.
You may have to leave Instagram and come back on.
Okay. I'm working on that right now. Let's see.
So each time when I come and when I have my podcast, I bring a guest on and we just talk about self-check because the reality of it is some of us we're not that excited to check ourselves. We're not excited to look at ourselves for where we are. Not because of people putting us on pedestals, but sometimes we put ourselves on pedestals. And we may have expectations or it may have set standards for us to be or to do in a certain spot of our lives, and we just didn't fulfill that. So we may not want to look at ourselves in the true isness of who we really are. And so it's so important, even when you're going through this self-discovery, to kind of just look at yourself as far as your identity and your esteem and your confidence. While she's still working it out, and I can see you perfectly fine on Facebook. While she's working it out, I'm going to give one line from one of the chapters. Let's see, which chapter do I want to focus on? Okay, so we can talk about self-care real quick. So one of the parts of the section in the self-care chapter is entitled Got Balance. And with that got balance concept, I asked a question, how do you find balance in your life? And me and Lady Cherie, we were talking before we came on live as far as just mental health and how it's so prevalent this day and time and how we're so grateful that it's something that can be talked about because mental illness is real. And, at one point in time, that wasn't something that was discussed. And I was sharing with Lady Cherie how, there was a time where I was working for a suicide hotline. And it was something that, it was something that was so necessary. The people that I had the opportunity to talk to, they were really battling a lot of things mentally and emotionally. And some just need somebody to talk to be a listening ear. And then some were really contemplating as far as just suicide. And you can hear the mental battle that they were going through from family situations, family dysfunction, generational things, or just, not just having that self-confidence. And so they were struggling, and they ended up being in relationships, looking for any type of affirmation. I mean, it was just a lot going on. Okay, let me see. Family dysfunction, generational things, or just, not just having that self-confidence. And so they were struggling, and they ended up being in abusive relationships, looking for any type of affirmation. And it was just a lot going on. Okay, let me see. I think I see you right here. Okay, there you go. Let's see if you're able to join us now.
Okay.
See, I may have to end this and start over again. Let me do it one more time. Accept. All right. See. I may have to end this and start. I appreciate y'all patience. Thank y'all so much. Facebook, Instagram, thank y'all so much. All right. I appreciate y'all patience. Thank y'all so much. Facebook, Instagram, thank y'all so much. Let me go back on. We're gonna keep talking about, you talk about how God saved your marriage.
Okay.
We can get back on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was just saying that God saved my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
A very young marriage. I walked into a marriage already really not knowing who I was,
Mm-hmm.
So even though I had spent most of my life in church, I still didn't know who I was.
Wow.
I didn't know that it might sound hard to believe. I didn't know God loved me.
Wow.
Even though I sat in church for many years, I didn't realize that he loved me. I always felt like he was angry with me.
Yeah.
Because I was always felt like I was doing the wrong thing, or I felt like I had made too many bad choices, that I did too much. And so in the back of my mind, I always just felt like God was angry with me. And it wasn't until I came to agree with God that he wasn't angry with me at all,
Wow.
and actually loved me and had plans for me. I didn't know. I just thought I was just kind of living my life, and hoping that he, would accept me, one day.
And I think that goes to show, even what we were talking about in the beginning, as far as just having that foundation, with knowing who we are and whose we are. Because when you have that foundation spiritually, as far as knowing God's love for you. All right, let me do this right now. Getting you back on Instagram, just because it's too powerful not to have this audience as well. Okay, so I just sent the request.
Okay.
You let me know if you received it.
Okay, I think it's coming now. Oh no, that ain't it. Let's see.
Did you get it? Okay, let me do it one more time. Do this right now. Get you back on. Too powerful not to have.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
As well.
Yes.
Okay, so I just sent the request. You let me know if you received. All right, so you have to actually, okay, let me see. Did you get it? Okay, let me do it one more time. Here's the thing. Okay. It says that you are unable to join. I don't understand why that's the case. All right, so you have to actually, okay, let me see.
Oh.
We're going to keep going though. And see, that's the thing about, social media. You kind of have your glitches. And it's okay. We'll just keep going. Because
I think that's it. Is that it?
Okay, there we go.
Yay.
There we go. This is a test, because you're going to always have certain things, dilemmas, roadblocks, certain hindrances, obstacles that's going to come. And I'm learning every day. It's all about how you respond.
Yeah.
You can easily get frustrated, get upset, and all of that can take place, but that doesn't change anything. But I appreciate those that were patient on Facebook, and those that rejoined on Instagram. Thank y'all so much. I know we only have a few more minutes, so we're going to just kind of do a couple more questions before we leave. So I'm gonna ask you, Ms. Sheree,
All right.
Because I remember you had stated in the beginning that you are a people pleaser, and that you find it difficult to say no. So I'm asking you now, how do you still handle that? Is it still hard for you? Because I have a chapter in here that says just say no.
Yes, I know. I do know. And I actually took a class. You actually did a class.
Yeah.
And talked about that, if you remember. To be completely honest, yes. I still,
Yeah.
at this age,
Hmm.
still find that to be a struggle at times, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm fully aware that the Bible says, let your yes be yes, your no be no. But there are times where I might say yes to something I really would like to say no to.
But why do you find it so hard to say no? Like, what is it that you can't just say not at this time? I'm sorry,
um,
I'm not available. What makes it so hard for you to say no?
I think it comes from wanting to be accepted, maybe, or
Okay.
maybe wanting to please others, even though you're
Yeah.
hurting, because
Yeah.
that they're happy, but you're not. Maybe it's a love thing. I haven't really sat and just thought about why that
Yeah.
happens. And I'm much better at it as I get
Yeah.
older. But I find that that is still an area in my life I'm working on.
I think, and I see a Mr. Sam. He said a lot of love for others, which kind of have us to say to kind of have that chance of saying no. For me, because I was one, now I have no problem. Even if I'm not directly saying no,
Mhm.
I'll say something on the lines where it's can revisit this at another time,
Yeah. Hmm.
or I'm not able to do, or my time doesn't permit at this moment. So I'm
Hmm.
not completely dismissing. Or if I'm just not interested in doing it at all, then it's no, I'm not feeling it. But
Yeah.
we can do something else. But I'm not just leaving it as no. And what I was finding that the reason why for me, I was always saying yes to agree with you was because there was a lack of acceptance that I had for myself. I didn't have a lot of self acceptance. So,
Mhm.
with saying that, there were times where because I wanted to be accepted by others, I would just do anything to make somebody else happy. But then, even as far as going through my personal journey and what I mentioned as far as in this book, as far as self-awareness, that is something that you have to be aware of what you will stand for and what you won't stand for, because if you don't stand for anything as far as boundaries or standards, whether it's emotionally, spiritually, anything like that, then you'll literally, like the saying is, you'll fall for anything. So
Yeah.
because I did not stand as far as my standards, I did not
Mhm.
stand on them, I fell prey to what was acceptable over here, even if it cost me
Mhm.
compromising myself, my standards. So when we that whole
Yeah.
challenging piece, and I go more into it in the chapter, but that whole challenging piece, just saying no, you got to look at it as to why do I want to please everybody? What is that self-awareness about me where I feel like I want to please everybody? What does it do? How does it gratify me for that? But I
Yeah.
appreciate your honesty.
Oh yeah. I think it's important because I think what I think sometimes is that people tend to think
Mm,
child, like I said, it's an issue that children deal with. But
yeah.
once you turn 18, it doesn't mean that these issues that you've been struggling with as a child don't just go away. You have to work on
Mm,
these things. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so this is something that this like people pleasing, these I'm just using that as one example of some
Sure.
of the challenges that I've had. It grew into my adult life, you
Yeah.
know, and I couldn't really pinpoint why I did what I did or why it was such a hard time for me to say no. But I found
Mhm.
that I had struggled with saying no. I had taken
Yeah.
on more responsibility than I needed to. You know,
Sure.
I had maybe given away more money than I should have, or I had gone somewhere that I really didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I'd rather be
Yeah.
in the house enjoying my weekend. You know what I mean? Instead of being dragged out somewhere that I really don't even want to go. You know what I mean? So I'm just using those things as examples. Like every day is
Hmm.
a is every day is a fight.
Well, see, and what I found, Cherie, is that the more I was saying yes to everybody else, the more I was losing Janice in the process.
Yes.
Because I'm literally bending over backwards to accommodate you over here, to make you smile over here, to make sure you're good over here, to make sure, you know, you have no worries over here. And so I'm saying yes to everybody else. And I'm losing me in the process, that by the time I'm actually settled within myself at home at night, and it's like, what in the world? I'm so drained and tired, not based off of something that I was doing, just because I was saying yes to everything and everybody over here. So that fine line of saying no can be dangerous. I'm sorry, was saying yes all the time and not saying no can be dangerous, because you're losing yourself in the process and you're not standing your ground. So you're losing who you are and what you believe and what you stand for. Then there's a thing as far as like, will people take you seriously or would they respect you when you actually say yes? Because that's not something that they're used to. That's like, who's that person?
Right.
Where did this person come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And I'm thankful that I've come a long way. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I don't still have those areas that,
Sure.
you know, that I'm not working on, that I'm working on, you know, and that's just one of many, you know.
Of course.
But
Of
it
course.
is, but you're right. You know, it really tears your life apart because so it's almost like someone else is in control of your life, you know. And so it is an area I think more people struggle with it than they'll say.
Then they'll admit, and I
Then
believe
they'll
that's so
admit.
true.
And I just think it needs to be a real conversation. You know what I mean? And that's why your book is here, you know, to kind of help guide people, not just young girls, but adult women too, to say you don't have to go through this. You know what I mean? But
well, I think it's also a conversation piece, also within, you know, relationships as well.
Yeah.
Because certain things can trigger, as you stated, as far as just how I may view a thing may be different from how you view it. And I'm not going to assume that because this is my perspective, this is the end all, because you also have a perspective as well. So even as far as, if we just use as an example, accommodating each other, you know, let's talk about what that really looks like. Let's not assume. Let's talk about what that looks like. Are you actually, you know, meeting my needs? Am I actually meeting your needs and letting that be something that's a real conversation? The thing about this book is that it should kind of probe certain things as far as how you look at yourself, how you look at relationships, you know, how you are in relationship with others, you know, and it's something that for me, it's not something that just stops because the book is over. You know, it's not something that ends, because I'm daily checking myself. And I just had an instance with my friend, you know, over the weekend, where it wasn't an argument, but it was just a thing where I had to look at, you know, why did this conversation go on? And I had to look at myself as far as, why did I even respond that way? So what am I harboring in my heart, or what am I feeling in my heart for it to be something that, you know, allow this conversation to go this way, and it didn't even have to. So there are certain instances that's going to constantly, that should have you check yourself if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to. I'm gonna ask you one more question before we go off. See, I told you time does fly when you're having fun. But for those, you know, who have been tuning in or just tuning in, this is True Talk Tuesdays, where we have self-talk from my book Self Check. Please, I would love if you can support. You can direct message me. I will give you an autograph. I will mail it out to you. You will have it shipped and extra your mailbox this week. As far as your copy, or you can go on my website, www.janicesternebrant.com. It's a great investment just for bettering yourself. Because at the end of the day, we can complain about everything that's going on in the world, in other countries, that's going on in different places that we may or may not have our hand in. But what you can do is make a difference within your own world, within your own life, by bettering yourself, and with that, self-checking. So let me ask you, Miss Cherie, before I get off, before we log off, what is something that you would leave with people as far as just them discovering their true selves, or them just being aware of who they are? What is something that you will leave with them as far as encouragement?
Well, I would encourage you to be honest. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Be honest. Get out a journal, write down all the things you love about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's so important. And if there are areas that you don't like about yourself, you can change them. You
absolutely.
can change them. Start by agreeing with God. You know, get you some scriptures that show you what God says about you, and begin to impart those things and speak those things over your life. They will make
Mhm.
a huge difference. Start believing God and being in agreement with Him. You know, agree with Him. Don't agree with the
Yeah.
lies. And if you need to, don't be afraid to get a coach. Don't be afraid to get a mentor, or or someone in your life that can help you and support you in the areas that you still need help with. The truth is, none of us are perfect. Whether we say so or not, we all dealing with something, you
Mhm.
know. And the good news is that God has put people here to help us and to support us, and you just got to find the right people that you can trust, um, that you can be able to, shake those things off and grow so that you can be
Yeah.
everything that God has called you to be. So that's my word of encouragement to all of you all. We're together, we're a family. Everybody struggles with different things, but agree with God. That will take you the furthest way. Agree with God.
See,
And, so yeah, that's it.
that was awesome. And anything can change with
Mhm.
just making a choice.
Yeah.
When you choose for, a situation, a dilemma to change, just make a choice to do something different. Make a choice to be different. And I encourage you all to make a choice right now by investing and getting your copy of my book, Self Check. Look, Lady Sharia, I want to thank you. I
Thank
appreciate you
you. I
so
had
much.
fun. Thank you. Thank you
This
for
was
having
awesome.
me and just
Yes.
helping me and supporting what I do. And just, I love it. And Self Check is an amazing book.
Thank
All the youth in my program are getting a copy. So it's exciting. So thank you.
thank you so much. I hope that this podcast today was, it helped somebody. I encourage all you all to share, to repost. And if you heard it before, or if you say, okay, well, I got the book. Look, bless somebody else with it. You know what I mean? Let's just pay it forward. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Lady Cherie. All right. Until next time, y'all have a good one. Let me stop.